Yeah, I'm just letting some guys in at the moment still. They're still straggling coming in. I do have some topics that were chucked up on Facebook from some guys that we can see. We can see if there's anything discussable there.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can check them up. But you know, it's an open one, so it's like you guys know, you most of you have been before. It's just like chime in, you know, any comments, any questions, anything to share, then
Yeah,
please.
I had mentioned, about channeling. I was interested in maybe, some of that. I can also talk about my experiences on that a little bit.
Yeah, I do have your question top of the list here from Facebook.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So I mean, we can pretty much start that. What I'll do is I'll let the guys in that pop in. For anyone new this year, it's just literally an open chat here. You know, it's just a friendly chat, discussion, share, anything to do with remote viewing, really. Usually you can chime in by sticking your hand up using I think it's the reactions button on the bottom of the Zoom there. Uh, yeah, and we're just, I got some questions off Facebook that, might start us off in some conversation. But if not, we'll just, we'll make it up as we go along. What I'll do is I'll keep letting people in as we go. And we'll take it from there, really. So we'll start with Don's question first. He said this on Facebook. He said, I'd like to explore the notion of channeling any channelers in the group and are practitioners trying to use it together with RV, and does it work for them, etc.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about my own experience, how I got involved with it, and where I am today with it. Is that sort of on acceptable, Daz?
Yeah, yeah, go for it, Don. Yeah, no rules.
Okay, all right. So I guess um, I got started with this channeling thing as a result of beginning a meditation practice. I'd lower the lights in my basement and close my eyes, and I was just trying to grope through the darkness of my mind with focused awareness. And I started hearing phonetic sounds in my mind, little bits of words, short phrases sometimes. And because the recommendation at the time was to ignore such things when you're meditating, I tried to do that too. Uh, but I couldn't because there was this synchronicity thing going on where when things would fly into my mind, like immediately after, there seemed to be a click, pop, or tap on the wall. And at first, I just thought these were coincidence, but as everybody here knows, too much of a coincidence is not a coincidence. And the words I was perceiving were thought provoking, and I started writing them down. And I'm sure all of you out here, there's a lot of psychic energy in this group. So we've all had powerful synchronicities. So I started this journaling to investigate this phenomena collectively. And that was back in 1998. And I didn't realize when I started this journaling, I'd still be doing it today. So when you do this meditation, listening, whatever, perceiving for long periods of time, you do get good at it. And the phonemes that I initially started hearing started becoming words, and the words became sentences, and then the sentences became conversational. And I started to explore the possibilities of channeling as a kind of a hobby. Uh, let's see, I, I did take a course in channeling along with my sister from a well known American channeler named James Von Prague. And his style of channeling was pulling information almost nervously, as fast as possible, very disruptive, I found. And at best, I found that you could only get maybe physical appearance information from the person you were trying to channel, what they were wearing, maybe the job they were doing, very general, simple word-based messages. He loves you, that sort of a thing. But what I had developed over my own time was a slower sort of like feeling, staying in a groove kind of a thing where I was waiting for information to appear, and then I would write it down or say it in my voice recorder and wait until I heard the next thing come in. When I initially started this, it was a very slow go, but I picked up speed. And as I mentioned later, it started becoming conversational. So in summary, it's really quite amazing what I'm pulling these days as far as, um, uh, and I find it almost more interesting than remote viewing. So let me say a few words about who you might want to channel. And that introduces a new thread on this topic here. So I started off by trying to channel spiritual people, saints and avatars and people of historical significance. And these were all based on my own personal interests, okay? I would just, I feel like, let me try this, let me try that. Look what they said the last time. Let me try to get more information. And there's one person I've been channeling off and on now for several years.
I don't know if it's the same for everyone, Don, but I've lost your audio.
Oh,
how's everyone else? Has everyone else got Don's audio?
I can hear him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay, so Daz, are you back online here?
Yeah, it might be my internet, with the rain and storms and everything.
Okay. All right. So I think where I picked up, left off, was I was channeling one person off and on for several years. And this was an Indian saint, or I think they call him an avatar. Ananda Mai Ma is her honorary title, or Nirmala Sundari was her birth name. And she had an interest in meditation and self-realization. And she also performed miracles. And I thought this would be an interesting person to connect with. So, so over time, she has explained to me what it's like to be in a timeless state, what we think of as the afterlife. And she explained the notion of karma and how reincarnation works, why you would even want to do it, and the whole purpose of life. And I thought these were really, really interesting things. And I've channeled others, of course, too. And let me see here. I've got a few notes. Yeah. So going back to the instructional channeling methodologies where they're trying to get information as quickly as possible. Just get it. Just, don't stop. Keep moving. What I found through my experimentation was, first of all, if you're trying to contact these beings in another dimension or afterlife or whatever, they're not necessarily prepared to converse with you the way we think of conversing. We talk in words, which, if you think about it, that's like a train of words, a train of cars linked together, one after another. Okay? I got the impression that they were more like a diffuse set of energies, and they would contact and communicate each other merely by connecting or passing through each other. So in order to connect with them, I often found it necessary to prime the pump a little bit by simply talking, expressing my thoughts to them so they would get a sense of the connectedness of my words, the order in which I said them, the tempo in which I said them. And you can, when you get into this, you can also channel other things besides human beings. You can channel animals. In fact, if they can channel you, I've actually been walking around and there was a deer standing there, and I just looked at it sort of like without really giving any thought to it. And it was I was in the house at the time looking out the window, and we just stared at each other, and the thought popped into my mind, why are you in there? And it takes you a moment to realize you have these realizations. And when I realized what just popped into my mind, I answered, because I don't have the body that can exist out there in the open like you do. All right. So anyway, I have had a lot of interesting experiences. I study these things, and I'll tell you something that I thought was very interesting just recently. I was contacting someone, and in my journal, when I read the transcription of my recorded voice notes, they kept repeating themselves. They kept saying things like their name and what they're interested in saying. And now wait a minute. If you think about this, they should know their own life, right? Well, I didn't get that impression. These people are in a timeless state, and they kept repeating who they were. It seemed to me because they needed to reconnect with that particular experience in the expanse of all time. So I hope you're getting the feel for this. It's almost like they were doing a little bit of remote viewing. They were using intention to connect with the thread of their life from their point of view. Okay, pretty interesting stuff here. So anyway, I that blew my mind. That whole idea. It started to make me think that from their point of view, time was like a thread, and they were contacting their thread to get information from it. And then I started thinking about, well, maybe is all physical reality kind of like a cloth woven by the experience of all intellects that are perceiving something? I mean, if you look around the room, things are all sort of being perceived by different sorts of experiencers. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I've had a lot of very interesting and fascinating experiences, and if anybody has any questions on this, I can.
I have a quick question, Don, real quick. See, for the longest time, I thought my interpretation of channeling was like the Bashar type of thing, but it's not exactly that, is it? I mean, it's more like, to me, it sounds like you're describing like a telepathic communication with something outside of you.
Yeah, I've watched Bashar, and quite honestly, I don't know how anybody can be that attuned. Now, I have to say, he does not remember what he says. Okay, so that's a tighter sort of integration with the entity, intellect that they're trying to communicate with. Now, when I hold up my little pocket recorder and I'm recording something, I'll hear words and I'll say the words, and then I'll hear the words and then say the words. So I'm maintaining a connection to myself and not just allowing something to pop through me. Okay. I want to do that because I want the connection to be interactive. I want to be able to hear what they're talking about and then ask questions about it. It's interesting. They can ask me questions too, and I have to answer them. It's really fascinating. It's really worthwhile, I think. Anyway, Daz, that's basically what I had in mind. If there's any questions, I'm willing to take those. Otherwise, we can move on.
Has anyone got any questions, or does anyone do something similar? Do any of you guys do channeling in any way?
I would say for anybody playing around with this stuff that you shouldn't take these things at face value, because there's a lot of very deceptive stuff out there that will just tell you whatever you want to hear all day.
Yeah, what I have in my journal is certainly not verifiable, just like remote viewing mystery targets. That said, I think everyone here has experienced the benefits of stepping outside of the box of their own little life through remote viewing. It gives you an expansive view of something that it's an interesting experience.
All I can add, I haven't done this for many years, and once you put the question up on Facebook the other day, I shared my first book about this, because I spent several years with a psychic circle group doing this kind of channeled kind of communication. I haven't done it since. I haven't done it in about 15 years, I'd say. Um, I find it very interesting at the time, but if you read the book, and it's, I chucked it out there for everyone for free. Um, I had good, like David said, I had good and bad experiences. There were some the entities that wanted to chat that were sympathetic. Sympathetic's a good word to the human endeavor and trying to get more information, but some of them were just there for the pure fun of taunting us as humans as well.
Wow.
And there, there was a huge trickster element, but I was quite lucky in that I wasn't doing it as a single person. I was in a group of, I think we were generally about 6 people that had been together for about 10 years, meeting once every 2 weeks in this psychic circle. So we were very in tune with each other. And we would go through like a meditation technique of protect, putting like rings of protection, all that kind of stuff. So I felt in a very safe, secure environment there. And having those other people in within meters of yourself as well adds that extra kind of almost like psychic battery kind of, you can draw it on their kind of energy type thing as well. So I think it's very valuable. You can get some amazing stuff from that. But I personally haven't used any of that within RV. I do have conversations with life forms in RV, but for me that feels different. It feels, I would say, the channeling feels, how can I term it? Aggressive, not aggressive in an angry, hostile way, but that there's like a momentum of power there. Whereas I think RV for me feels a bit more what I would call passive in that. I can't really put it into words what the difference is, but yeah, the two are very subtly slightly different. So I haven't done any channeling in RV, but I've done it out of RV. That's what I'm saying here. It's great. You can get great information, but you can also meet some very devious characters out there that like to play. So
nice-
you have to be a little bit careful.
Nice difference with remote viewing is that you've got a specific tasking for what you're going to talk to, because
True.
if you're
Yeah.
just channeling whatever, you're basically just playing with a Ouija board.
Yeah.
Anything that can take you for a ride will. So have fun.
Does anyone know? Because we've spoken to Angela, maybe we should get her back, Angela Ford, because she uses the technique quite a lot actually within her remote viewing, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. Yeah. And Jimmy also uses that technique. Is he here today?
I can't see him on the list there.
Yeah.
What we should do
Okay.
is I'm speaking to Angela anyway about doing an interview for the Psychic Guys podcast. So I'll see if she'll come back on and go through some of her techniques within remote viewing for this.
Daz, did you experience any physical phenomena when you were in your channeling group?
Oh, well, that's a question. Nothing spontaneous, but over a period of months of and I think it's in the book, I can't remember because I wrote the book many years ago. I went through the process of allowing them to enter my kind of physical form to almost like physically kind of manifest, and we got using the energy of everyone, because as I said, there were like 6 to 8 people in a close circle, which kind of allowed me to feed off their energy because I don't think I could have done it on my own. And I think we got very close to me being able to fully allow something else, not me, to take over my body there for a while.
So you were willing to take that risk then?
Yeah, I did, and it almost happened on a couple of occasions. I could actually, when I was sat there in deep meditation, I could actually feel the whole kind of slipping in process and me moving to me moving to like a small part of me while they took over like a 90% part of me.
Wow.
But I have to be honest, even though I've been doing that kind of stuff for years, I think I probably bottled it at the last minute and stopped it from this going back on my memory. I vaguely remember bottling it at the last minute, thinking, okay,
Okay, so the one thing I guess I should add is if I'm hearing words and then saying words, hearing words and saying words, hearing words, sometimes the flow gets so fast I'm hearing a word, the next word as I'm speaking the previous word, okay? And it's coming in so fast that you don't know what you said.
Yeah.
You actually don't know what they're talking about it anymore. And that might be what the, Bashar is like. Okay, it's like the flow is just so fast, you have no concept of what you're even saying. So that's as close as I've come.
Yeah. It's definitely very interesting. Yeah, as I said, I played with it for many years, and I wrote the book and stuff. But yeah, I met some pretty naughty, mischievous things as well as some really enlightening things. So anyone that's doing this, you just have to be aware that when you open yourself up like this, you do it is a bit like the Star Wars films, with the dark side and the light side of the Force.
Yeah,
You have to.
I guess I've been pretty lucky in that I've never really, well, I've encountered some mischievous things or whatever they are. But I've always seemed to sort of deal with it in a pretty easy way. Did you have any defense techniques, Des?
Yeah, we when we started, and as I said, I was lucky because it was a group of people. So when you work as a group like that, and you are literally sat, not shoulder to shoulder, but literally in a actually sat in a circle of chairs as well. So you're very close,
Mm-hmm.
and there are like crystals and rituals and all that kind of stuff involved. We did go through every time we started, we went through the lead person who was Brenda, my mentor at the time. She took us through a guided kind of meditation of, and it's very ritualistic. You can't really claim any of it's real, but protective angels, white shields that come from everyone's, body force that materializes and all that kind of stuff. I'm quite a visual person, so as someone saying something like that, I can actually almost physically see that kind of thing materialize. And not a lot of people can do that, but it's just because I'm a visual person, being a designer and stuff. So it was just classical, what I call the classical psychic self-defense techniques. And, you can get many of them in the book by, there's a famous book. It's the best-selling book on psychic self-defense techniques. It's by Dion Fortune. It's a very old book. But she's very wise in that if anyone wants to know about how to do that kind of stuff.
The one
didn't you have
technique that
some
I
advanced techniques as well from when you did that exorcism?
I'm not talking about the exorcism stuff. But yeah, I did, and I did, and Dave was talking about a different thing. I did actually get involved, because I did all this through the local spiritualist church. I was a member of, my mum ran the spiritualist church, so I did actually get called up to be like almost like a psychic battery for the main exorcist on a couple of exorcisms as well, which was
wow.
yeah.
Wow. So the only defense technique that I've ever needed, if something was bothering me that seemed to be communicating with me and it was bothering me, I just mentally envisioned putting them in a giant slingshot and letting it shoot them off into outer space. And then there was this technique of cutting the cords, where any little bit of strand that was reconnecting you and them, you would cut the cords. And what was surprising about this technique was after I did that, I didn't know what I did. I had forgotten why I had just done that. And I was like, what the hell? What was I doing there? What was I? And then I realized I was reconnecting to whatever it was I had just tried to disconnect myself to. So from that point on, once I use that technique, if I feel like there's a mental block, don't pursue it.
But for those that are kind of new to this, all this kind of channeling and all this kind of other worldly stuff that's existed for like eons before remote viewing. Remote viewing is like the new kid on the block, really. There are many things to do. I think I said this to people in the past. Remote viewing is only a very small kind of niche in the kind of data that you can get from all the different techniques. But you do have to be a bit more careful with the more classical stuff because it is a bit more chaotic. You know, you do need to think about protective kind of techniques and make sure you're of a sound mind when you're going into it, you know, with your intent and everything as well. Because just like remote viewing, I've seen some people go off the rails with remote viewing, but I've seen even more people go off the rails when I was doing my classical psychic training. And some of the people weren't even taking training, you know, they were the ones that were having to call in exorcist stuff, but you know, that was because they were being bothered by some of these what should I call them, bothersome entities that exist. And you know, they do exist, they are out there. So yeah, I think it's very valid stuff, but yeah, like everyone, be careful. David, just as a thought, when you guys do the cowboy and you have the discussions, could that be classed as almost a form of channeling?
Not David, but in some cases, yes. I was actually going to suggest that the two analogs I've seen in remote viewing methodologies I've practiced would be in cowboy. Sometimes it's just easier to go to the monitor, go, all right, you asked the question, I'm just going to answer for it. And then in the TDS method, they refer to a concept, depending on what it is, they either say blending or merging, but the command would be something like merge with the suspect, and then like in your head you become one with them and answer their thoughts, etc.
Like Cowboy was magical evocation, so it was kind of inspired in part by literally summoning demons, fictional characters, deities. Like the part of the origin of that remote viewing methodology is from the classical magical stuff. But there, I mean, you got to put your robes on and do your incense and your color associations and draw your magic circle on the ground and vibrate the million different names of God and do all this fancy stuff. I don't know about you, Josh. I don't do any of that stuff.
I do like a good God vibe from time to time.
I've done the odd circle, but you know, I don't routinely prepare in that way. But I'm quite practiced at interacting with stuff that way. I would say, Don, your slingshot thing, you can, if things are bothering you, you can kind of just yeet them basically and just kind of expel them from your space. But if you've got other people in your house, you want to be careful about doing that because they can then go and bother somebody in the next room. That's happened with me. So you might want to be a little bit more thorough.
One other thing I guess I should mention is not that I practice this in any way, but I have tried to channel my son and daughter on occasion when I couldn't get them on the phone. I would ask them, you know, hey, are you guys coming over tonight or not? And then I would just wait and listen for some sort of response. And more often than not, darn it, it was accurate. So I don't know where this is all leading. I had an interesting conversation with John Babanco about this while I was taking lessons from him, and he told me that he was of the opinion that people had a kind of a front porch to their mind and that they don't know about. And so, you know, if you are used to using some sort of telepathy or channeled mind connection, you can connect with that. You can ask questions of that. Most people don't have any defense for this. They are not even aware that they have this front porch. And just put that in your back pocket.
We colloquially refer to that as dialing someone up on the Discord server.
Yeah. You can do it for, you know, anybody, anyone. I do it if people haven't replied to my email or are late for a meeting or something. Like, we did it last time we recorded the Psychic Guys. Brett couldn't make it. And we're there going like, no, he's not coming. Smell hair product.
Wow.
No, I made that bit up, but I mean, it's not really channeling though. Channeling is, to me, is more like when something takes over your body and you're just observer.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I'm thinking of it more like telepathy in a way, or mind-to-mind connection.
it all seems to be like a scale, isn't it? At this, it's a gradient. There's no clear divisions between, any of this really. There's lots of what we call gray areas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone else have anything they want to add to this on the channeling thing or anything? Or have we done?
Has anybody taken any channeling courses?
I think we've given it a good half hour. Let's beat another one to death.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to run through, unless you guys got questions as well, stick your hand up and ask those, but I'm just going to go through some of the ones that have been on Facebook here. I don't even know if some of these are appropriate really, but let's see what we got here. So C Magnon asked, I'm interested in two things: RV failures by people with good track records. He doesn't say why though, and group viewing, which Ingo said improved accuracy. Does any of our groups ever use it, and what are the results? Anyone got any comments on any of these? So RV failures from people with good track records, and maybe why? I guess that's what you might want to use. And do you think that accuracy is improved by groups doing it rather than individuals?
Okay, so that experiment I did for the ideograms, I passed out a bunch of ideograms. People interpreted the ideograms, and one person had a completely different response to the ideogram than everybody else. She was like way off target until I realized she was interpreting my ideogram through her own sort of set of interests. She was a healer, and she was concerned about something that she picked up in my ideogram. Nobody else picked up on that. So that introduced to me this notion of a filter. Whatever we're remote viewing, there's this filter, which is us, our experiences, what did Ingo Swann call it? Our reality box. That, the information is got to pass through. So that could cause a failure.
Anyone else got anything to say on this one? It's a bit of a weird one, this one, with the two parts. I
I
don't really know what he wants to know on this one, to be honest.
I will say from my perspective, there's some stuff I just I have blind spots. I mean, I did I entered that competition that Dick did, and I remote viewed Dick, and he's like, okay, don't remote view me, go to the target. And then I remote viewed him again, I think. So but what I will say is like that target, like on a piece of paper, I know that's not something I'll blow right by that. I mean, it's just I don't think my camera's really built for that. But what's funny though is right as I was watching his video of the feedback, I looked up. I just dropped something off at the store, and I looked up at the emblem of the store, and it was that infinity symbol right on the thing, like that whatever it was. It was kind of like getting spanked by the universe. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, I mean, some stuff. And then I also believe that there's some stuff is just for whatever reason it's not perceivable. That's why I'm doing this future predictive thing where I let my subconscious pick the date, hoping that it wants me to succeed, and kind of giving them the reins and that. So, but that's just my perspective. I know what psychic data feels like, but I can't predict if it's, you know what I mean? Like I knew I was on some kind of signal, but for whatever reason, it wasn't the right one, so yeah, it is what it is.
That was a tough target picture on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I saw the feedback for that and was like, damn. But you raise a good point, Dave, I think, about blind spots, and that they can be trauma, including kind of like past life trauma, if you like, or just weird personal blind spots you got about stuff that traumatized you at some point, or somebody you love, or whatever. And I used to have it with bridges and dams, which is like quite bad if you're training remote viewing, because every target is a fucking bridge or a dam, isn't it? And every time it was a bridge or a dam, I would just displace onto the suicides. So I'd be like, oh, this is really dark, I don't want to do any more of this. And it's like, it's a bridge, and you get either or the deaths during construction. And that, it turned out that I just had a hang up about falling from a great height to a sticky end. And I kind of did some inner work on that, and like now I can do bridges and dams. But can run into, still not very good at death overall. So that can be a reason if you just really don't like it. Oh, another one of those that Brett told me about choosing ARV image pairs is that you should never use snakes, spiders, or sharks because everybody is like genetically scared of them. It's like our instinct to be frightened of them. So if you put scary animals, people will displace away from the image. Potentially.
Makes sense.
I will say too, David, I could tell the difference. Like if I get a target where I'm trying to find out a winning team, I know that's what it is because I could tell the way my mechanism is working. Everything's turned upside down. I know that it's a gambling target because it's like the target's playing defense, so, and I'll be lucky if I could just get a little piece out of it, and you know how it is. You're so familiar with yourself, something's off, and for whatever reason, consciously, I mean, I want to hit it. I want to nail it just like I nail it whatever else, but it is what it is. Last
when you say
Super Bowl, I got
gambling
lucky,
target,
but I didn't.
do you mean like doing sports bets or?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I could tell by the way my mechanism is behaving. Okay, this is a sports bet. I'm in a stadium by myself. It's like it'll give me. It just. I'm sure some of you guys got to be experiencing something like this. But I know I'm so used to it now. I've done so many. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a gambling target. I could just tell by how fucked up it is, basically.
Well, check in with yourself and make sure you don't believe it's like evil to use your psi abilities to make money or something, because people have really common beliefs about, we should all just work for free and eat exposure and it's evil making money, Dave, with your magic powers.
I know this is silly, but I've had like beings like in my sketches like doing this, like you can't look at this. So I know, is that ridiculous or what? So that's why I don't spend much active time on it because it's like climbing a mountain. As to every other target information is just like so obviously, but I will tell you if I could remote view stuff like that as well, like do informational targets, it would change the game. So
So I'm just trying to understand there, David. Are you saying that on a sports bet target, you've got something holding their hand up that they don't want you to see?
A guy dressed like a god. He puts his hand in front of my face. You can't look at this.
Wow.
I don't know if you've tried
don't
this.
Act like nobody's ever seen that guy.
There's a little cheat code. Sometimes it works where if something's blocking you from seeing something, you give yourself the movement command. What would I see if I could see it?
Well, I'll tell you, I did go, Josh. I did
like that.
Take a student. I did take a student to talk to that guy and say, "What's the deal? Why do you keep doing this?" And he's like, "Why do you want that? You can't have that." I said, "All right, well, let me talk to your boss." And the all-seeing eye was the next guy up.
I love
and
it.
He still was very restrictive of the access.
Yeah.
The trick I learned from John Vivanco was that when you're blocked by something that seems to be intentionally blocking you, quickly move to one side, the other side, and behind, and just get different viewpoints. It's almost like they can't keep up with you if you keep doing that. So you get a different view from a different angle, but you get to the data.
I could penetrate, but it's like a system that plugs holes. As soon as I start getting in there, it no matter how it adapts to the way I'm trying to penetrate it. That's the way it works for me, guys. I mean, I have cut down trees of paper trying to tackle this thing, and it's no matter how I'll change the way I get in, and it'll work, and then it adapts and then changes on me. So that's why I don't go hard at it. It's a waste of time.
You're not alone. Everyone going back since the year dotting RV is, tried to use this to win the lottery and make money. And no one, I mean, we say no one, but there have been a couple of small successes, but no one's been able to hit the jackpots, including Ingo and everyone. Ingo tried it, many thousands of times, and, he did die pretty, destitute himself. There does seem to be, and I've talked about this many times, I think there's something in play stopping. There's an intelligence here that's stopping some of us, not all of us, but some of us And it may be because, just because we want something doesn't mean that that's in whatever plan there is for us to do whatever we're doing here. As I said, and I've said it many times, if I won the 100 million that I tried to go after sometimes, I wouldn't RV ever again. I wouldn't be on Facebook. I wouldn't be holding these meetings or anything. I'd be like on an island somewhere drinking martinis until I
Well,
died.
that last Super Bowl, the only impression I stuck with, the reason why I stuck with the whoever won the Chiefs, because the costume, it's like he was wearing an inner tube, and it was just the most peculiar impression. And I thought to myself, the whole Target is a mess, but this one weird little impression, I'm gonna go with it. And like I said, I didn't bet any money, but I got lucky. I just got away with that one little scrap. It wasn't gonna give much more than that.
I think the APP people, if any of you keep up with them as well, the Marty Rosenblatt remote viewers that have spent like the last 20 years trying to make money through ARV. I think they have the same problem in that they have groups that occasionally get above average records, but as soon as they then start, and it happened to Target and Put Off as well when they did the silver, as soon as you start waging serious amounts of money on it and there's more at stake, that's when the results start to go down fast. Again, we don't know why, but personally I think there's something intelligent there, but proving it's a different thing there, really. So
I
that
don't
was.
see any. Oh, I don't. I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say, Des, I don't see. Has anybody really seen any improvements with ARV? I mean, what I've noticed with ARV, and I'm not. If anybody's really into that, I'm not like knocking it, but I feel like if you like focus just in on that, you become like kind of just like a scuffer of targets as opposed to like a deep penetration type of thing. But that's another reason why I don't mess around with it too much.
I've had spotty results, but I'm using ideograms for it, and trying to get around the displacement thing. I'm waiting for a lot of results to come in because they're long term, so I don't know what those are. But in my pre-studies I did on it, and I've published a couple of them in papers. I was getting good results. But it's like any one of these projects, like the APP people as well. If they're short, sweet, and interesting, you get good results. But when I then did a bigger study of 50 ARV projects, I found, and I just knew this myself, halfway through doing the 50 targets, because I was the project manager on it, setting all the targets, I knew myself, and my intent as the project manager was waning halfway through, because I was like, oh, I'm starting to get really bored with doing these week in, week out now. So I think I accidentally, as project manager, probably messed up the results of that, because I was just because when if I'm not RVing somewhere in the universe, I find it a little bit boring personally. So I think
Apparently,
boredom has a big thing to play, but I think you're right in that if you just stick to one thing like ARV, then you do lose your ability to RV the bigger and more specific targets.
I was wondering about that myself too. Yeah, it
yeah, got to
seemed
keep it
like,
mixed up.
yeah,
Yeah, everything
At
in
least one big
moderation.
proper long one a
Keep a
week.
balance to
But
everything. Yeah.
apparently, APP's had some real good success recently using Eric. I don't know how to say his name, Shuna or something, but he's published a protocol which John Knowles popped onto the RV Discord a few days back, and they've got there's small numbers in these trials, but like 85, 79, 92% hit rate. And I don't know the details of what they're doing, but it's nice to see some positive numbers coming out of APP. Also, Brett Stewart cracked ARV pretty well. He's been making a very good living out of it for years now. And I think one of the, as well as working on what makes good target pairs and developing really good, well-balanced target pairs and stuff, doing the introspection and the inner work of, do I believe it's wrong to make money with this? And getting all of the things in your subconscious that block you from making big money with that out of the way as much as possible is a big innovation he's brought there. And he just does it week in, week out for years on end with success. So
if you hook me up to the machine,
that,
Dave, can you give me the remote view ARV? If you hook me up to the machine, could you get rid of my problems?
Well, the Scientology machine.
The galvanized skits.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, yeah, you can use that. I use that to fix the bridge thing, right?
Yeah, I am curious about this thing. Too much ARV makes you a poor regular remote viewer. Um, but there's the reverse side of this. Like, do you have to like continually bang at ARV in order to get good at it if you're already a regular remote viewer? Is it one of these things where, again, practice it makes perfect?
Practice is required.
Yeah.
I
Like, if you think about,
I don't,
go on, Josh.
I don't think that the focusing ARV, making your RV skills in general, I don't think it's literally a psychical function problem so much as a force of habit. Once you start doing ARV, you kind of, then it's probably not fair to say the words get lazy, but the things you focus on are different. You
Hmm.
just want, okay, I only need this detail to tell this picture from this picture apart. So you only go to those little surface level details. And then once you get a bigger, deeper project where they want you to penetrate deep, they you just haven't done it in a while and don't think of some things.
Yeah.
Of course, you could just retask that and get people back up to snuff, presumably.
I am so lazy doing ARV. When I do ARV, I do a single ideogram. I don't properly decode it. I might write the gestalt in a descriptor or two, maybe, and I do one quick sketch, and that's my whole session. I think the
Mhm.
less you do in an ARV session, the less opportunity
Yeah.
there is for displacement.
I
and
mean,
the less boring it is.
maybe we should share to some of the guys. Through Future Forecasting Group, we're running ARV paid projects. So I think 3 or 4 of the viewers, I'm paying for 6 viewers each month to run ARV targets for Future Forecasting Group, and it's essentially really fast work. So all I want them to give me, because it's experimental, mind, it's my approach, but all I'm asking David and a few of the others to do is just give me a single ideogram. So literally their ARV time is like 30 seconds to a minute to do, and I just want a single ideogram, and then I match ideograms with the 2 targets, the binary targets of yes, no, or up and down kind of situations.
So the ideogram itself reveals the answer of to the binary question, this or that
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
I swap them around. So sometimes the ideogram pairs are something like I don't know, water or a structure. So I'm looking for in their ideograms for them, for the actual visual look of it to look like water or a structure, or for them to indicate it's water or a structure.
Mhm.
And then the next time we do it, it may literally just be purely visual. So I look at their ideogram. I'm not interested in the gestalt in any way. I just want to know if the ideogram looks like it's moving up or if it looks like it's moving down in its direction. And down would mean, one outcome, and up would mean another. So it's very fast for them to do, less than a minute for them to do as a viewer. But also for me as an analyst, it's very easy for me to kind of see if the ideogram's going up or down, or if it's water or a structure kind of thing.
Understood. How do you task that, Des? I mean, you're putting a time bracket on this thing, right?
Most of them are. I'm not choosing the target, you see. I'm just project manager. So the tasker chooses the target, and then a lot of them are quite far, 6, 12, 24 months into the future.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm just setting the target, with its binary outcome, one outcome for A, one outcome for B kind of thing. And then, once the data comes in, I'm just matching it to, does it look more like A or does it look more like B kind of situation?
Yeah, because the experience I've had with what was that? One of the Hellfire targets, Darby's target. My ideogram traced out the path of the what was it? The that ice age.
Yeah.
And it actually matched the one in the book. And I was like, look at the time. What was the time scale there? Is the thing that sort of like bothered me. It was, we're talking about thousands of years here.
Yeah.
So I could imagine if you're like going after a crypto type thing, it could go down, but then it could come right back up. So what kind of how you classify that?
I think we've talked about this in, when you visited us in London. I've got a different view on ideograms than, some of the OTRV people out there. And I think that it's a really amazing communication tool, a visual language that actually wants to morph, grow, and adapt and work with you. And I've got hundreds of examples now of my ideogram language when I'm doing intangible targets like, the stock market, gold, silver, cryptos, all that kind of stuff. My ideograms aren't gestalts anymore. They're not land, water, mountains, all that kind of stuff. They literally do try to mirror the information that it know. I don't know how the process knows this, but it knows that I want later on about how this crypto or how this market's going to move over the next 6, 12, 24 months. So yeah, your ideograms are an underused capability, and in themselves. And I literally just did a lecture or a talk on this to to my students that I mentor, as I call it stage 6 kind of extra tools. And I did a break presentation on they need, you really need to listen to what your ideograms are trying to tell you, because it's such an amazing tool that you can use under huge amounts of capabilities. As you're seeing now, as yours is trying to morph with you and show you intangible aspects of the target that you wouldn't imagine under normal circumstances.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you. I mean, my ideograms are also sort of like explaining things in ways I never would have imagined before. It's something you have to get used to.
Yeah. David, go for it.
Just going to say, yeah, I agree with you with the ideograms. When I was chasing this, figuring out a way to do this with, winning money, I was doing horse racing for a while, and I would go, just after a little practice, I would end up going straight from an ideogram directly into a composite sketch of what the horse was. And it worked amazingly well until it changed on me. And then it would still pick a horse, just wasn't the winning one. So, yeah, you could train. I mean, it blew my mind. I mean, it would literally, if it was like Princess, Peach, I would sketch a princess holding a peach or something. And just in one page, from ideogram directly that image. Yeah. And again, though, but you still have that flip over factor where it's like, oh great, now it's picking a horse, but the one in last place, Yep. So
I mean, I could probably call up and show you some examples if you want. And the weird thing is, with the, I know we're crossing different conversations here as well, but my ideograms and Naeem, is Naeem still here as well? He was here just now. He does great ideograms. Well, both of us are getting ideograms, and we've been doing it many years in future forecasting now, so it's given time to develop. But they really do accurately show us market trends, and if Bitcoin or whatever we're looking at is going to go up or down. It's really very accurate in the way we're getting these kind of sketched really fast information. But the thing is, I think it's only giving me that information because somehow in the process it knows that I'm not investing in it. I bet if it knew that I was investing in it, it would be giving me the wrong information, and I'd be getting them wrong. I haven't tried that as a theory, but yeah, it seems to be really accurate. Other than I guess if I was there thinking, damn, I'm going to put money in this, I bet you it would come out wrong. That's part of the process, but I don't know. Yeah, but that's an interesting observation. Maybe that's an experiment we should try, actually. So let's see. No, Josh, you got your hand up. Go for it, Josh.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say I've had the same thing with ideograms since like day one. Like I was told that the ideogram doesn't need to mean anything, but mine like consistently look like the target when I'm doing photo sites. Like it'll be a profile of all the shapes, or it'll be some specific element of it or whatever. But yeah, no, it's I rely on it pretty heavily. And in ARV especially, I did like a 30-day ARV trial in December, and I recorded a bunch of it, but I haven't had time to edit it together. But anyway, a lot of the stuff you guys have been talking about, I think I've got some data to crunch on it, because taking money out of it, like just I used RV tournaments, so I wasn't dealing with any tasking problems or anything like that, because it was just the machine doing it. But yeah, I the boredom thing, I have that too. Like subconscious likes to dive deep, and if you stay shallow for too long, I think that's what displacement is for me, is when I start displacing on targets, that's the cue to like, all right, let's do something else. This is boring. Like that's something I've noticed anyways.
Hey, bear with me a second. I'm gonna see if I can share my screen here a minute. I'm gonna find a couple of the ideogram examples, just for the people that don't so much know what we're talking about. I'm going to skip through this though, because it really isn't for you guys to see. It's just some of my stage 6 stuff. Bear with me here when I get through this. It's here somewhere. Sorry, hang on. It's here somewhere. Ideograms. Okay, here's some of them. So yeah, I've noticed over the past 5 years that my ideograms have changed and they give me loads more information. So like for this is like looking at a news event for the next month, and my ideogram here is clearly showing me, when I'm looking at this, because my cue here is the top financial news for May, and the ideogram's clearly showing a big, huge down drop. And then even with some really kind of high level data in there that it shouldn't be allowed under normal circumstances. And the news for the next month was that it was the stock's record longest weekly losing streak since 2008, for example. So clearly indicated by the downwards depression there from the ideogram there. Oh, bear with me a second. I've got to try to let someone in here. Oh, they'll have to wait a second. And again, on the Bitcoin one here, looking ahead, I was looking at Bitcoin here, and you can clearly see the ideograms. It's not trying to show me things like, water, land, and structures and stuff. It's clearly trying to show me this motion and a downwards correction here. And, I'm getting really in-depth, really strong words that shouldn't be allowable, like indecision and drop and the resistance, and correction. And and I even had the feeling here that it would be a 10K drop. And when I was looking at this in the next month, Bitcoin did drop 20%, and it was a 10K drop as well. So there's huge amounts of information in these ideograms. Other ones here. So I was looking at top Bitcoin news December 2022. Really erratic. This is really erratic, kind of chaotic motion for me here. But then this second ideogram here, you can see again a real downward drop here. And I even had the December 13th date here. And on the December the 13th, that's when we had this peak thing here that came up, that Bitcoin rises to its highest level. Another ideogram here. Again, this isn't a standard ideogram. Look at the weirdness of this and the way it drops down, really trying to tell me really hardcore information here. And this is where the Dow plunged 480 points. Talking about, like Dom was talking about, with the motions as well. These aren't so much ideograms, but I kind of call them ideograms, or I call them flows now, because, it is a quick flowing motion. But when I'm doing these almost like quick ideograms, these flows, they're not exact mirroring, but the general feeling of them does actually mirror the results. And here's another one over here on the left with that one, and with the dip area there, kind of coincides with the dip area there. So yeah, ideograms themselves have huge benefit. I think they are undervalued and underused, and I teach my students to, try to find new ways to allow them to, because they do want to. It's almost like they're intelligent. They do want to adapt and work with you as a remote viewer.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, Des. That was really nice.
So next question then we have here is off of Silka. This is going to be an interesting one. And it's about openly distancing ourselves from Scientology within remote viewing. I'm sure a lot of people got lots to say on this. Anyone want to start us off?
I wonder who that's pointed at.
Is she here today? Can she kind of explain the motivation for that?
Yes, she is. I don't know if she wants to. Silky, do you want to say something? I can say.
Here I am. I can
Hey,
say
hello there. How are
something
you?
about it. Yeah, I'm fine, Dad. Yeah, well, the thing is, there obviously is an influence of Scientology on remote viewing, because Ingo and Pat Price, and also people like Hal Puthoff and others were Scientologists. But I think the influence of Scientology today is not there anymore. RV is just something like a mind sport. It's not, it is, we are not a cult. We are just a community of people practicing, well, something like an intuitive mind technique. So, but I think the problem might be in the wider scope that any journalist who digs into remote viewing and into its background might come along and find the connection to Scientology, and this could lead to the fact that remote viewing might never be accepted by society, even if it is a general human ability we all can hone if we practice enough. So the problem is just it's this part of history is there. I mean, Scientology didn't create something new. L. Ron Hubbard got that knowledge from esoteric circles he was a member of in the time before he founded Scientology. And these esoteric circles had their knowledge from other ancient other circles practicing ancient ancient magical techniques. For example, Aleister Crowley and other people before. The point is just Scientology didn't create anything new. The unfortunate fact is that there is this, that Scientology just seemed to have taken over a lot of stuff for a while. So, and I mean, I think it's something the remote viewing community has to work on, and they might have to look after it. I mean, it's we also already said that in the discussions on Facebook. It's an unfortunate part of the RV history. I mean, it's like Germany had Nazism, and the US had slavery, and the West had colonialism. So it's a very unfortunate fact. I mean, generally, Scientologists never played a huge role in this remote viewing field. They never had high leading positions, but they were there. Luckily, the connection to Scientology was cut after the spying campaigns of Scientology in the 70s. But I mean, still, but it's still there. But I mean, we are not Scientology. We are not a cult. We are just people practicing a mind technique. That's all.
Well, if there were any Scientologists here, they might be very offended by that.
I mean, not to rehash our entire Facebook discussion on this already, but how exactly does what you're suggesting look to you, Silke? Like, does someone come into, say, the RV Discord or the Facebook group, and there's just a big thing taped up there that says "We're not a cult," or how does this disavowal work? Because I think generally as a group we all pretty much agree that Scientology is a human trafficking organization, whatnot. I don't think we're secretly going rah to LRH or anything.
No, absolutely not. Yeah,
that you're suggesting we should be at.
Yeah,
But there's a
but I mean,
technology aspect of this outside of the religious aspect that's very interesting. There is a distinction between, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
I mean, this
Yes.
is more, Dave, you know a lot more about than you and Josh, but there have been profound findings within that. You know, obviously there's a lot of bad dogma, but there has been some knowledge that's been found there. So you got to take the good out of the bad if you can. I mean, these guys are doing some really interesting things. I'm sure they can tell you about, but there's a separate aspect. There's a technology aspect, and then there's like the religious cult aspect. That's all.
Well, there's a historical aspect too, right? Because the parts of Scientology which may or may not have influenced remote viewing are from like old Scientology, before it got culty, when it was more like a kind of think tank for stealing spiritual technology from people and coming up with something cool, and then it kind of morphed into the dislikable organization we all know today. Josh, I think you've been investigating how current or recent ex-Scientologists
doing
relate
some-
to remote viewing, and they disavow us quite heavily, don't they?
They do. I do kind of want to push back on this idea because it does get reiterated in circles that Scientology used to be better or good, and then all of a sudden after Hubbard died and Miscavige took over, it got bad. Like it was always there was always really horrible things going on to begin with. What people are usually meaning when they say that it was better is there was a period where David Miscavige came out and basically rewrote portions of what they would call the tech. So they stopped doing it the old way. And a lot of people got upset and left the Church of Scientology at that time, and they started their own groups. A lot of them are referred to as free zoners. They're usually the sources of that Scientology used to be good and now it's not. Story or claim.
I'd got that from Russell Pickering, I think, but it was a kind of passing comment, and I may have misunderstood how good he meant by, good. maybe it wasn't ever that great, but definitely the idea that there was lots of stuff that they thought was worth stealing. Like every cult has got something that's actually of value, otherwise nobody would join. And Scientology had some stuff, maybe still does have some stuff, that was producing results and real benefit for people, and then that's happening in a context where they say, well, it's because all our dogma is true. But that
I'm
happens in
glad
any
you
religious
mentioned
cult, right?
I'm glad you mentioned Russell Pickering, because he and I were like doing some Zoom calls with each other at one point, and he showed me his that auditing device where you hold it with your hands and it has some sort
It's a
of
toaster.
meter.
It's a toaster.
The e-meter.
Yeah, what is it called, Josh?
The e-meter.
E-meter. Okay. Apparently, there's some value in that. In fact, David, you have something like that, don't you?
I do, yeah. I don't have it to hand. It's a skin galvanometer, I think is what it's called. If you take the trademark off it, it's a relatively straightforward bit of kit. Who was the guy who was, hooking lie detectors up to plants? It's
Cleve Baxter.
That's it, yeah. It's basically that sort of idea. But there's, just like with remote viewing and ideograms, actually, there's this really rapid response. And it's not a matter of you're holding this thing and you think about something scary, so you get really sweaty or something, and it changes the reading. It actually, the line darts about potentially really fast, and there's some kind of quite rapid physiological process that happens, that's detectable in the skin based on what's going on in your mind, which is why they use it for auditing, which is that thing where you tell them all your dirty laundry and they put it in a filing cabinet in case you ever leave, allegedly. But that's based on a technology that's really valuable, right? Because it's like a metal detector on the beach, in that you can survey all this kind of psychological territory, and that thing will tell you, oh, there's some trauma buried there that you can unpick. So doing that in a secular way is a really powerful technique, which I've used, as I was saying earlier to Dave. I was using it for my why do I always go to the suicides every time I remote view a bridge thing? Right. So I was kind of trying to re-trigger myself and then looking like, the meter's gone off. That's where to look more. So it helps you kind of hone in on stuff that you're not consciously aware of. So it's a useful tool. Sorry, that's a huge tangent.
No, it's definitely valid because I don't know if Don or anyone's seen this, but in the Ingo archives, you can see all of his work, and way into the 2000s when Ingo was doing personal RV sessions, he was at the same time using one of these e-meters to give him readings when he was asking himself questions in an RV session, and then seeing what the output would be. Would tell him if it was positive or negative on that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that these tools have great value. Personally, I don't know a huge amount about Scientology, because I tried to stay away from it. But we have to be honest. In the early days, there was the major proportion of the people working at SRI on the ESP situation were Scientologists. I think we counted 6 of them now. Including Pat, Ingo, Howe, Janet Mitchell. I think I found the other day documents about Janet Mitchell. And we have to be honest as well in that Pat Price was unalived, possibly because of some of the stuff that was happening within Scientology. There are these allegations that, as part of the auditing stuff, he told his handlers in Scientology everything that was going on at SRI, which was all top secret, and all the stuff he was doing for the CIA, and that when the CIA raided, or was it the FBI raided Scientology, they found all the details of all these projects, so it had all been leaked by Pat. And again, I have to be honest, I've been looking through Ingo's archives, and I've got a huge file of correspondence between Ingo and Ron L. Hubbard. It's very friendly, but it also reads, from my point of view, like Ingo in the 72 to 77 period, maybe even slightly later, was trying to sell Scientology to the scientists at SRI. And he was then reporting, and at the same time he was reporting back to Ron L. Howard about how all the experiments were going and how they were disseminating Scientology around. But he was also reporting back to Ron on how successful the ESP experiments were. And there was, it clearly indicates in those and in articles that Ingo felt that at least some of his capabilities come from his early Scientology experiences. I don't know what other thing to call it other than that. So there was, I have to be honest, there's some very interesting and possibly some very dodgy stuff going on there with people possibly breaking oaths and selling secrets, all kinds of stuff. And Scientology is well known for being involved in and doing all that kind of stuff off its own back. I don't think we should hide that though from people. I think we should embrace the history of RV, good and bad. It is what it is. The more you try to hide it, the more people will make more.
And any sort of collective effort at public disavowal as a kind of exercise in signaling is just going to draw a load of attention to it. So if the stated goal is to stop journalists discovering it or stop them assuming for some reason that remote viewers are Scientologists, if all of us start going, I'm not a Scientologist, I don't like Scientology, it's kind of going to have the opposite effect, I think. Yeah.
But Dave, Pat's ability, or his, I don't know if you want to even call it technique, whatever he used, but it came out of Scientology, right? I mean, it's not like he was learning it somewhere else. He must have been doing some kind of techniques within the Church of Scientology, and he went to them and said, "Hey, I could do this and that." And that's where he got that from. It's
I'm
not saying he wasn't able to do it, but
Scientology got it from somewhere else, so they didn't invent anything new.
Just because,
I'm not denying that. I'm not,
It's still who the people who made remote viewing learned it from. And regrettably, as much as I would like to say that pointing the roots of the cool parts of this technique towards occultism, as much as I would love for that to be treated as a cool, awesome acknowledgement of previous human traditions, it doesn't really, that's not really going to make anybody feel any better if we point it towards Aleister Crowley. I'm going to tell you that right away. Like, that will immediately get everybody going, see, the devil is the one who did the RV. That's not going to affect you think it's going to.
Well, there is also Rene Walcollier, who had a huge influence on remote viewing. All the kinesthetic part is from him. So I also think that also should be kept in mind. So it's not just Scientology.
I don't think anybody's claiming it is, though, are they?
No.
Like, if you were a journalist, I think you would struggle to speak to a remote viewer who would tell you that remote viewing was entirely Scientology and that we were affiliated with the Church of Scientology. I've never met one. Maybe there is one somewhere, but I think that's an interesting historical artifact. And also, it's kind of clickbait, isn't it? Because if you write an article that's Scientologists invented psychic spying, twice as many people are going to click on it than the government did some ESP research, because it's sort of salacious, isn't it? I mean, what do you want us to do, Zilka? Are we supposed to get a tattoo, or?
Well, no, I just wanted you to maybe write an article about it in 8 Martinis or something, or give a talk on the yearly IRVA conference or something. I don't know, something like that. Nothing more. That's what
Would be
I
a quick
wanted you
talk.
to do. Yeah.
Okay. Any more on Scientology, or should we move on to something else? Moving on then. Right, let's see what we got here. No hands are up, so I'm going to go with some here. Anita Ikonen asked on Facebook, could you talk about how in remote viewing it is claimed that remote viewing in the future is a bit less predictable or certain, as if the future isn't fixed? What are everyone's experience and accounts of this? And does anyone have any theories on why this might be? So why remote viewing in the future doesn't seem to be as accurate as remote viewing past and present targets? Anyone?
What's your averages, Daz? What's your percentage rate on your monthly forecast?
I haven't marked the last year, but I did mark 2.5 years, and that worked out. It ran about 65% for me. And I think on a normal target, I think I'm about 10 or 15% higher than that on a normal target usually.
That's why I'm hoping this model works, because if that's the case, then it would, to me, it would, in my mind, it would be that your subconscious wants to give you the news that happens, but yeah, it's slippery, like this whole assassination stuff that some people have been getting. Will it not happen because we've all gotten it and there's been some change now or whatever, but we all picked up on it. So what is that? So far, I've had target, I've only done like 4, but I just keep pushing the date out. Everything's been working, but something like this, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, it's sticky.
There's a theory that the closer you are to the actual event, the better you're able to remote view it or predict it or whatever. In fact, didn't you do something about the election last time where you thought Trump was going to win and everyone remote viewed that he was going to win, and then toward the end it kind of shifted? There was something that you mentioned like that.
No, I think David saw that. No, I have done some Trump and the US election ones. I think I've done 3 using 3 different groups over 2 or 3 different elections, and they've always been wrong.
Always wrong.
I think every group that I saw that predicted, when Trump first got in against, I think it was Hillary at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think every prediction from every major RV group online through Facebook was that Trump would lose, but then Trump won.
Wow, what is that saying?
I've given up, Journey. I've given up
Wow.
My-
to
my-
RV
my
projects,
sus-
they always fail.
My suspicion is there is a fixed timeline, and something wants it to stay that way. That's just so. The farther you go out, the more you could change it or whatever. I don't know, but sure seems to want to be a certain way. Seems like, from my perspective.
I think, as I said, I think with all RV, I'm absolutely convinced that there's more to it than we think, and there's some kind of intelligence at many different levels, and that it sometimes wants us to do things and it sometimes doesn't. That's yeah.
I have a theory, and I'm just going to throw this out there. If you remember the results of the double slit experiment, where you've got these two waveforms that kind of intersect with one another, and there's this pattern of intersections where they cancel each other out, I kind of came up with this idea that there are some pieces of the future that are like pinned in place. Those are like, the waveforms that are cascading into one another and then just creating that null point where no matter what happens in between each of these things, this thing is going to happen. All right. And that thing is going to happen. So it's sort of like parts of the future have this underpinning, and other parts are completely open and free. Just throwing this out there.
I've heard Julia Mossbridge say something very similar in a talk she did. I think she might have called them like anchor points or something, like just stuff that's kind of out there in the future and or in the past even, and has a big effect on now, one way or the other, right? So and that we
Lindy
are kind of
Cannon
shared
said the same
experiences
thing
among all of us.
previously, like, because it does kind of seem like that.
But I know
Well,
what my experiences are, and all I can go on that is that my experiences are that future remote viewing is generally less accurate than past remote viewing. For any of you that have played with this, are you getting similar data, or is yours equal?
What about the
Similar.
idea that the future is loaded with the projection of each person that are involved in the future, meaning that we don't usually we should live in the present, but the future we project every person on planet, every person involved in that project in a way or another, like the people who are gonna win the pot of a lottery or whatever. So everybody is influencing that. So this is why it's like a flux. It's reverberating up and down accordingly to the people who's there involved, and which are all in that. And that's why I think it's more, let's say, more elusive to us than a project from past or a project from now, let's say.
From my experience, it's less about how far out it is. It's more about what it is and what it's going to affect. That's been my experience. Some things, I don't know. That doesn't seem to be, from my perspective. I mean, I've done projects where there was a guy that was kind of like making money off me, and he wasn't telling me. And I went into the project and I sketched myself sitting in a chair like this, like I'm not playing. And I said, I don't know what's going on. So the guy got all mad at me, and I said, I don't know what's going on, but this is me. From my perspective, it's my subconscious knows this outcome. He knows this guy's screwing me, and he's not going to do that. He's done. He's done. So from my perspective, the subconscious knows everything, and it's feeding us stuff back that we can get. And if it is predetermined and our conscious mind doesn't know that, but our subconscious does, we can't tell the difference anyway. It's still a surprise as far as we're concerned.
I think the personal resonance thing is a big part of it too. Like how much does this event impact your life and your thinking and everything that you do in the future as a result of this event happening, right? And I mean, I don't think the future's fixed. I think this is kind of evidence of that, right? Like we all get different stuff all the time. We all get misses with future targets sometimes, right? And yeah, I don't know. One of the great mysteries.
Yeah. Excellent, guys. Thanks for sharing those. Okay, we've got about half an hour left. I'm gonna go with Dimmy's question here because I already had this written down as well. She just put a question in the chat. And it's related to Ingo's archive, and it's new stuff that his niece Eddie put out. I don't know if any of you have read it recently. So Eddie flipping Ingo's niece recently put out a couple of extra pieces on Ingo's website, and the link I can let me paste the link to it. Oh, the link. I'm gonna paste it in the chat message there, so you can have you won't be able to read it all now, but it's a few thousand words of text, but it's essentially. Oh, in summary, how can I summarize it? Ellie's basically saying that the remote viewing projects were intimately connected to aliens and UAP research. And Ingo was doing lots of secret stuff. And that if you read all Ingo's materials, he was essentially creating a secret treasure hunt with all the clues in there for you to find to know what was happening with these secret UAP and alien programs. I think she also links lots of stuff into it. Yeah, lots and lots of stuff. I'm not sure about some of it, but some of it does fit absolutely. Yeah, so you just need to read it, really. That's all I can say on it is, but she does all kinds of things. Like she says that, the hints we've heard in the past, and I actually asked Ingo about this, because there were hints that Ingo did train another group of people, a secret group of people in CRV that disappeared. And he did he did confirm to me that he did do that. But in this article, she kind of links it, or I would say, kind of link it all to the secret UAP alien program, and these people went off and they were essentially remote viewing aliens and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, you're gonna have to read it. It's quite long on that link. It's all hidden between in these kind of drop down kind of like menu type things, so it's hard to read and stuff. But there's lots of new information in there. Some of it I think is valid, some of it I'm not sure of, but the thread of it is essentially linking the entire remote viewing program and its existence to secretly looking at UAPs and aliens and communicating with them over a period of years. That's
Did
what she's
anyone see
saying.
Ellie's post on Twitter today about the golden balls?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yes, I'm reading through it now to verify its credibility. And just for that, no other reason.
Definitely not. This is some of Ingo's smut, which he published
Yeah.
under a pseudonym. And it was quite a long post on Twitter where she said he had pointed out, that's the most important thing that I've written. And given that he wrote a lot of amazing stuff, she was like, what? But apparently it contains something very important that he wanted to make sure people saw. So Josh is nobly reading through some presumably 1970s vintage smut book. And
That's
will get back
amazing.
to us. What's happened so far? How's the plot?
I
Josh?
cannot tell you because this is going to be published to YouTube.
You could use euphemisms.
No, I
But yeah, so I recommend you guys go and read the stuff anyway. And also, I don't know if I got the link here, but Eddie also did a couple of podcasts the last couple of days as well on a UFO thing, and she discusses it all on there. I'll find the link and post that in a minute for you as well. As I said, I believe some of it's truthful. I think some of it's a bit fanciful and a bit over the top. And I think some of it's laced with the writer's own intents and thought about UAPs and aliens as well. But I have been speaking to Ellie about it, and I have also give her, because she came across some threads in the discussion, and I actually gave her lots of other documentation to validate those threads that she came up with. So as I said, there are certain threads in there that absolutely are valid. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a big, interesting point. I'd love to see what, because she mentions How and a few of the others, How put off and the others quite extensively. I'd love to see what their opinions are on it. I'd love to see like some of the other Stargate viewers like Paul and Tom McNair and Bill Ray's impressions of what they're claiming as well on this one. But have a read of it, and then maybe in a later Zoom we can come back and discuss it. So, Dimmy, I don't think anyone can talk about that one
Thanks.
with you.
Thank you. Sorry. And
Go
go ahead.
You obviously read it, Dimmy. What did you think of it?
Well, it's mixed because in some areas I also have my biases and my beliefs, let's say, but it's really powerful, and you have to try yourself to read, because not you personally, I mean generally speaking, uh, because you have to have a grain of salt when you read it. Some are really, really interesting, some are much too woo even for me, but good stuff, and I can relate to some in what I think was going on there, and probably it's still going on there. I don't know. Yes, I trust that it's true mostly from what is there. So yeah, that's my short opinion on that.
So they were creating remote viewing for extraterrestrials. Is that what I'm hearing?
Or communicating and
Yeah.
exploring the UAP situation.
Oh,
And
I thought there was some hush hush stuff at Monroe doing some stuff like that, aren't they? Wasn't the military like a part of that or something? I don't know.
I think they're mentioned in Eddie's stuff in there as well. Everyone's mentioned in there, so you'd have to read it. Yeah.
Tom McDonald always implies that the UAP stuff has some sort of consciousness connection. So then one thing I've like tried tasking is, are UAPs just, some sort of conscious thing popping in and out of existence? And I know in like official videos he doesn't say that, but like Tom goes on really awesome rants with small podcasters while he's like in his car, and he just reveals way too much stuff. And that's kind of what he implies in those.
by Tom, you're talking about Tom McNair?
Tom DeLonge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the To the Stars Academy in Arts and Sciences, Blink-182. Yeah, him.
Gotcha.
Yep. Which I'm assuming he knows a lot more than we know about what's going on in the UAP space.
If we talk only about the Neuralink thing that Elon Musk just did it, they said that, I don't know if it's true, maybe it's just a rumor, that the guy succeeded to influence a rat or something using that implant from distance. So just a few steps until there, probably. So that's something to digest and to think about.
You're talking about remote influencing now.
Yes, using an implant, an outside thing, a device or whatever you may call it, to perturbate, to transform others' minds, thoughts, and energy fields.
Daz, you're familiar with Tom DeLonge's work, I'm assuming. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think it's the you think that it's the Nazis that are part of the aggressive bunch up on the moon? You think that's them up there? Who are the nasty assholes up there?
It's only been an hour and 35 minutes, and we've got space Nazis.
Yeah. We should have been doing the lotto, shouldn't we, on it today?
Yeah.
Oh, the bingo.
I don't know on that. There are lots of people saying that there are humans on the moon. I've only RV'd the moon a few times, and I haven't seen anything like that. I don't know. I think that's a woo too far for me. Humans on the moon like that. What they call the secret space program. Yeah, I don't know on that one. I'm not even going to touch that.
Did you remote view the space arcs for Michael Sala or something? Did I see something like that?
I did do a remote viewing RV
Okay.
session for Michael. It was some kind of alleged facility in the middle of the ocean, underneath the sea.
And don't keep us in a mystery. What did you find out?
Well, here's the thing. How to say this? I think sometimes when we RV what the person tasking us wants us to find rather than what's actually there.
Oh yeah.
So I think that happens probably a lot when you have a tasker that creates a tasking, and you can see it just by reading the tasking that they created afterwards, that it's biased beyond belief. I think anyone that creates a biased tasking, yeah.
So your Area 50, your Bob Lazar, does that change your opinion on that one too, or no?
The one, well, I haven't worked Bob Lazar, but I project manage Bob Lazar. And I did actually write in the tasking document that I am biased in that I believe Bob Lazar was telling the truth. But I also try to write in all my taskings that the remote viewers to ignore any myth, social construct, tasker's intent, and only try to describe the actual target. So I do recognize if I am biased, and I do write that into my tasking. So yeah, on the one that I set for the future forecasting route, when they did Bob Lazar, as I said, I was project manager on that, and I did say right from the tasking start that I do believe he's probably telling the truth on that one. On the other ones that I've worked for Courtney, again, I think it's very highly possible that some of the stuff that I was reporting was because what Courtney wanted me to report rather than real data. But again, it's the same with every remote viewing experiment. we're all, because we're all at the behest of the tasker. I think it's the same as every remote viewing session. All of us do all the time, and the only negotiating factor in all this is obviously feedback. Feedback is king on everything. So we all have to be very careful what we put out, in that if we don't have enough feedback, we have to be honest and say it could be from something else, social myth, social construct, my intent, their intent, and anything else. We have to be honest with that with our RV until feedback becomes solid enough that you can validate any of your RV data. Yeah, it's a hard one, but yeah, on the Ingo alien thing, it's definitely worth a read. If half of it's true, it changes all of the history of what we're involved with. But I don't know. I don't know. Some of it I know is true. Some of it I don't agree with. But please have a read of it. It's very it's very important. You probably do, really.
So Des, I'm just curious, that business about remote viewing Bob Lazar, are you at liberty to divulge the results of that experiment?
It was for future forecasting. It was in fact, I was the project manager, but I wasn't really the tasker on it. The tasker on it was a ufologist called Richard Dolan. He's quite a prominent ufologist. He also, but again, he's biased in that he believes that Bob is probably telling the truth as well. So we came up with the project and tasking together, and we tasked it to, I don't think he's here now, Naeem, Dick, I think Dennis worked it, Edward, and Derek, the new guy. It was probably about 6 months or so ago. I think we may have put it was behind a paywall, but it may be online somewhere. It may be on our paranormal viewing YouTube channel. I'm not sure. If not, there's a major proportion of it on there. So I set them the target of because no one really knows if Bob Lazar is telling the truth or not. So I set them
Right,
the target of looking at Bob Lazar at key dates that he said. I can't remember it when it was. It was in the 90s, I think, 80s or 90s. A very short period of time where he said he worked at this facility called S4, which is just downwind from Area 51. So it was a very specific time window that they were look at. And as I said, I tried to get them to put my bias aside and all social constructs aside, and to just detail what this person was doing at that time. And all the viewers came back and with these big doors in the desert that opened up to a military facility with high technology, and they all drew a UFO type craft, and all kinds of stuff like that going on. Yeah.
One more
think
quick
we're
question.
all-
What's the timeline on that rapture? I just want to. That rapture target you guys did, you get a timeline on that? Should I bend over, kiss my ass goodbye now, or how much time do we have?
Again, I don't even speak in public on that one because I have no religious beliefs. So that for me,
Yeah,
the whole
but aren't
rapture
the
thing is
aliens going to come and
Right around
rapture
the
us?
corner, though. Right around the corner.
2 more weeks. It's always 2 more weeks. It's just like disclosure.
It's like the UFO disclosure in 2 weeks' time.
I thought that Lazar video, the one that he originally did, where he described the way that they worked, the motive force that the antimatter engine and everything, how it traveled by folding space. That was really a mind trip. I mean, I'd never seen anybody talk about it with such casual ease before. So that was a pretty amazing thing, even if it was a fake.
He has some good points, and he also he has some bad marks against him as well. I have to be honest. But there is some evidence out there that he's telling the truth. There's a good documentary that should be out literally any week now, and they got a Twitter channel called, I think it's called Project Gravitas, and essentially what it is, it's a group of people that've been working for a number of years now with Bob, and interviewed him all the time, and they've essentially 3D modeled, based on what Bob's told them in descriptions and sketches, the entire S4 facility and the craft. And it's all in the documentary, as far, and they've tried to get it as absolutely realistic as Bob remembers it with all the textures and stuff, but they've made it in such a way that it's interactive, so you can actually get involved with it and walk around S4 and walk around the craft in 3D yourself interactively. Yeah, and that should be out. That should literally be out any week now. But it's on Twitter. They got a Twitter channel called, I think it's called Project Gravitas, and they're showing you all the 3D renderings and stuff, and it looks absolutely fantastic.
I hope you post a link to some of this on your Daz Chat site. The
Let me see if I can
Facebook
find it right
site.
now.
This is Project Gravitar or something.
Because I don't have what is it, Twitter or what?
Yeah, it's on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have even an account
or
on that. So
X.
yeah, X now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will
So-
I will share the link to the site.
And they also did Richard Dolan, probably about 2 months ago. He did a 2-hour interview with the people making the 3D renderings in the documentary, and he actually showed quite a few scenes of them making the 3D renderings and stuff, and it looks to be some of the best stuff I've seen. And yeah, just to be able to maybe through your own eyes walk around an alleged secret facility and then around the sport model craft itself, that's going to be quite interesting to go through, I think.
Thank you, Demi.
I'll see if I can find the link as well if we move on to a different subject here to the future forecast group. I'm sure we put the Bob Lazar stuff online for free.
I put it on the chat, Daz.
Excellent. So it's in the chat for you there, on if you want that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's it on the UAP stuff, and we're getting close now. Any other questions anyone wants to talk about? Or share anything? Anyone want to share any RV, any projects?
I would like to ask about retasking. What do you think is better, to retask blindly a person, or to retask going on specific, let's say you're not in a hurry to find a missing person. Let's say you just want to retask someone. So they think it's better, or how do you find anyone, not specifically you, to be retasked with specific?
I'll bite this one.
Oh, no, please
I
go.
use blind retasking when it's just going to be an AOL job for the viewer. If they're already making a mess of AOLs and I want to just move them and be like, have a little fresh start and start building a castle. Or if the nature of the question is going to either give away the target or just be really give you strong AOLs because I want to ask something specific. The rest of the time I don't do it because it's just easier for the viewer.
Okay, thank
I
you.
can throw in my own 2 cents here. And Demi, what I've done in my private projects is I write out alternatives. And I look at the alternatives like, what will this possibly get me? What will that possibly get me? How would a remote viewer realistically respond to this tasking? And, I try to like enumerate all of these things and then pick one, pick the best one, pick the one that is most likely to succeed, kind of a thing. So
Kind
that's
of
my sense.
using your gut.
Yeah.
Don. Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely something about considering, there's the ideal notion of remote viewing that it's always going to get you factual data and all of this. But then there's the truth of remote viewing where, conscious minds slide around in time. They slide around with what their perception is, what their aperture is, and you still want to get what you want. All right. So I see that as kind of like the tasker's problem, is trying to find the right shot into that mess to get you the data you want.
Got it. Thanks, Don. So Daz?
I mean, I've never done like monitored sessions, so I've never been there live and got someone to look, to do that. I don't agree in doing those. But as you know, I'm happy to just get a viewer session come into me and then go back to them and say something along the lines of, I don't know, your sketch on page 6, get me more, or your page 7 data, develop that more. I try not to be leading in any way and to input myself in anything. The data is always the remote viewers that I'm asking them to explore. It's not anything I'm introducing into it. So that's how I work.
Do you think would be at use to you to like try to do the same thing, like you're retasked with a whatever it is, coordinates blind target again, or you are retasked and again trying to do the same, you're retasked with your object page 3 detail more, like doing the same stuff and see if the viewer get the same stuff. But
so you think or you're suggesting it'd be better to retask the viewer so that they're slightly more blind than by me saying,
yeah,
look at your data and get me more.
yeah,
I don't know. I'd have to
you have to try.
I don't like the idea of it because it seems to be making things more complicated rather than less complicated. And I'm always for simplifying things rather than for making them more complicated. I haven't tried it, but that's because I'm very careful on what I do. I don't say on page 6 you drew a spaceship, go back in and get me the spaceship. I say, on page 4 you did a sketch, get me more information. It's only if you're reading more into that, then that might be you, because there may be a case where I get a viewer to go back in and get me more information to disqualify that information.
Okay.
Just because I'm asking you to get more information on something that you've overlooked yourself, it doesn't mean that it's the actual target
Yes.
itself.
Yeah. See, I see. Okay.
But I always
you.
use, you know, and I think, you know, because I've retasked you, I always use your data to retask you on, not anything else.
Okay. I've seen you have an intelligent camera. Every time you keep the hands up, he's gonna change your perspective. Yeah.
No, it's not me. I don't know who's doing that.
Yeah,
Okay.
somebody's sharing their screen or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
I would say try both ways and see. It's like everything with RV. You know, I say there's no set way forward. Just try what works for you, and you know there may be a better way. It's just that's what works for me. Is to task the viewer on their data and bits that they may have missed to get more. Yeah, so I try to, as I said, I always try to simplify it rather than. I think me trying to set a new target for it. So you now target A, B, C, D, and E. I guess it could work. It's just, yeah, I'd have to write down notes on what A, B, C, D, and E were,
Yes.
and then have that somewhere stored away, and then reference it. Yeah, just again for me, it's just like, yeah,
Too complicated.
yeah.
Yeah,
If
I
it
see.
works for you, then do it that way. I don't see a problem either way, really.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you you asked a question? Do you think there's a problem, or do you think it's all right, or what
But
are
I
you
was
thinking?
tasked some time ago in a common project in Hellfire, and I hate it all the way. All the way I hate it. But I was on target. And sometimes I was retasked with things from my sessions, and I was creating. I was starting to create myself something which was not on the target. So I don't know. Sometimes can be that, somebody can be the other one. I don't know what's best in that very moment.
Yeah, yeah.
But the blind target that does work, and I still hate it. That's for sure. The blind retask, I meant. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Des.
Anyone else got some viewpoints on that one, on what you do or anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I find these targets where you put perceptions down and you form an impression of what it is, and you're really like think you know what it is or whatever, and it turns out to be wrong, but then your data is still accurate, is kind of like one of the most fantastic aspects of remote viewing, actually. You know, it's really kind of amazing.
Don's doing something with tasking right now. I wish I could talk about it. It's really interesting. I can't talk about it, but it's interesting.
We're having fun. Yeah.
Awesome work, guys. Does anyone have any last questions then? I don't have any more from Facebook, I don't think. Are there any in the list there? I don't
I think
there
we're
are.
running to the dry here, guys.
Yeah. So we could pretty much close up for today.
All right.
Thanks everyone for all your comments and for sharing. It's been awesome as usual. It's been fun. I'll chuck this on Facebook as soon as I can get it done over the weekend. And you know, for those people that want to review it or share it or whatever.
Hey, thanks for the docs, Des, the thing you posted, and Demi for that link. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Trail. Thank you.
Have a great weekend, guys, and yeah, hopefully we'll get to do this again very soon. Keep it up.
All right, take care, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
So bye. Thank you. Thanks for the invite, and thank you for the chat. Bye.
See you all soon. Take care. Bye.